Welcome, gentle listener, I am Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the forces, factions, and fleets of the Warhammer 40k setting, the grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace, there is only time for war. If you wish to see the channel flourish, then like and subscribe, but also consider joining our Patreon or throwing a one-off tip in the form of a super thanks if I have indeed earned your bounty. And today, we have another wee nugget of lore as I attempt to bend my will to creating a few banquets and, of course, the monthly Thaddeus, which shall be with us next week. But also today, so I can introduce Space Wolf players to a Discord server for the game Space Marine 2. Although I claim no affiliation and certainly no fee from heralding this motley bunch, they do indeed appear to be true sons of the Rus, organizing clashes with other chapter and lineage-specific teams. So, if you are a scion of Fenris and would like to find your home from home, please hit the links in the description or pinned comment to this video, because finding a pack to befriend is increasingly difficult in these trying times, so give them a go. From what I have witnessed, they are a true fraternity, so you have nothing to lose. Now, we must get to the meat and to veg of the matter. The Space Wolves chapter, Fleet. From the Bald Library. Ignorance is not always bliss. Archduke Falman had thought so hard before he raised his banners, considered every eventuality, catalogued the responses possible, likely, or even inevitable. But never in his wildest dreams did he factor for what was now transpiring. How could he? In this backwater system, as rich and important as it was, they had languished as far from the fronts as was conceivable. For generations, his line had grumbled and grimaced at the cost of what they considered a purely hypothetical situation. The tithe fleets came, consumed every last scrap of excess production, then went on their merry way again. Always arrogant, dictatorial, churlish. Never even a by your leave, and certainly no hint of gratitude for the slavish efforts of his people. And this had gone on for centuries. Long had his people been chided over the threats that faced this imaginary imperium of mankind and its equally preposterous assertion of a galaxy filled with aliens and enemies. Never once had his world been touched by these phantoms, never witnessed the litany of evils with which they were threatened. They came like protection racketeers in their huge ships, with their insatiable hunger for the fruits of his people's toil. Finally, his line had had enough. The opportunity came once, and Falman grasped it with both hands. A fleet of ships, not of imperial markings, claiming to be rebels from a nearby system with exactly the same situation and subsequent beliefs. Yet these had done the unthinkable. They had captured ships from the tithe fleet and turned them on their enemy. This is what they told Falman, and he had no reason to question their assertions. They had offered to help him and his people, to free them from the yoke of imperial tyranny. All they needed was other planets, other systems to join in their revolt. And when the Imperium returned to scour his world again, they would fall on them. Falman, like all leaders of worth, asked for proof. So, when the tithe ships appeared, they brought him aboard their flagship, and he had a first-hand view of the action. And these rebels had done exactly as they had promised. Hiding behind the third moon, they swept out as soon as the tithe fleet locked into geosynchronous orbit over his primary planet. Acting fast, they shot down those ships they could not board, and the tithe fleet was now theirs. Impressed, Falman agreed to give them half of his tithe instead. The rest he kept for himself, and his people, of course. An abundance was returned to his culture, and they got fat on the land. In less than a decade, Falman was in receipt of a small flotilla of ships of his own. The technical support given by these rebels, things were looking up. He even went in for a bit of military adventurism of his own. There were rich belts in multiple systems around his own, and he learned to command the fleet deftly, clearing away what raiders and miners he found, capitalizing on surprise and his own numbers. Then it happened. A second tithe fleet arrived. The hoodlums were so discordant, so ill-informed, that they did not know he had found them out. Clearly, these were not from an integrated empire, with the vast armies and fleets he had been threatened with for so long. Otherwise, how did they not know the fate of their last tithe fleet? And Falman had them shot to scrap metal. That was then, and this was now. Alas, Falman now realized he was a child. But how could he know? When a frigate-class ship appeared in system, with markings he did not understand, they hailed him and proclaimed that they were a space marine vessel. The boogeyman. Legends none had ever seen, none had ever witnessed. The apparition used to cow the local systems before their rebellion. They did not, could not exist. He knew this. Archduke Falman did not even hesitate when giving the order for this one ship to be engaged and annihilated. But this one was tough, and it outpaced and outfought the 3 ships he had sent to destroy it. It slipped back into the warp and was away. And Falman could not help but fear. What if? Recalling his entire fleet from every adjacent system and operation, he gathered his ships above a moon distant from the Mandeville Point and waited. Any interloping ships coming out of said point would need to come at them, to them. They would have weeks before the ships were in range, would be able to scan them and then take appropriate action. If they were coming at all, of course. Falman was awoken from his slumber by the red lights and claxons of battle stations being alerted across the fleet, and in less than 5 minutes, the doors to his bridge opened, and the horror was revealed to him. There would be no weeks, no days, not even hours to prepare. Ships had torn their way into real space, mere minutes away from engagement range. Impossible. They were deranged. Nobody would do this. Nobody but. No. His ships maneuvered as best they could, but nothing stopped the foe. His flotilla opened up, and their fire poured into the oncoming fleet. The foe's fleet had no cohesive design, no uniformity. They looked like brigands, raiders. Yet the shields were strong, their armor thick, and they were relentless, dauntless. No amount of even concentrated volleys stopped ships of this enemy. Even when they were burning in the void, still they came on. Nor did they fire back. Not torpedoes, not lance batteries. Nothing. Then, as these ships crashed into his lines, they unloaded their weapons batteries at point-blank range. His flotilla was torn asunder, damage reports coming in at a terrifying rate. These enemies knew no fear. And then the klaxons went off again, not only on his ship, but across the entire fleet. During the salvos, things had been shot into his ships, and out from these things poured huge armored soldiers. But they were not normal. Despite even their size, They were not normal. They did not miss, ever. Did not stop, ever. Gave no mercy. Moved like lightning. They marched through the soldiers. These monsters marched through his soldiers like they were children. A single armored enemy wiping out entire squads. And the last thing Archduke Falman saw was the blast doors of his bridge being dragged open by a mere 2 of these colossal armored monsters. And he knew. He witnessed legends come to life, nightmares in his very vision. They were the Emperor's executioners. They were Space Marines. They were Space Wolves. Now please be aware that I am not going to run off a list of the ships of this armada. This is an overview of their spirit and style. The Space Wolves chapter fleet. Although chapter may be as pertinent in this situation as that of the Black Templars. For the Sons of the Ras do not hold to the strictures of the Codex Astartes. How this will pan out in the future we have yet to see, especially as we fast approach the Wolf time, the return of the Ras being inevitable at this point. The second found son of the Emperor. He was ever the most aggressive and loyal of the earliest discovered Primarchs. Few like to think about it, few mention it at all. But to many Primarchs, the figure of Leman Russ was that of the older brother, the one who their father could and would set on any recalcitrant or rebellious of his later found sons. And his independence, thus that of his lineage, is legendary. Warriors without fear, heroes to a man. They do not even pay lip service to the organization set up by Rabute Gilliman in his codex, nor do they consider themselves beholden to any imperial laws that did not come directly from the Allfather, their name for the Emperor. Some consider them a ragamuffin band of cutthroats and braggarts, but this can usually be squarely attributed to no small modicum of jealousy. For the Sons of the Ras are as free as they are wild, but none can question their loyalty or lethality. On a cold and lonesome night, it has been the call of the wolves that has not engendered fear and shuddering from the populace of humanity, but a rise in the spirits of any imperial defender expecting to die before morning's light. For when they hear that call, screeched through the night, they know the truest sons of the Emperor have come, and it is their besiegers, their attackers, that should now quake in their boots, as none can stand before the wrath of the sons of Fenris when roused to war. And of course, their practices are equally reflected in their fleet. Now most chapter fleets need only service 1,000 warriors at full strength. Not so the Space Wolves. They have 13 great companies, if one includes the Wolfen, and far exceed the statutory limits of 1,000 Astartes. Thus their fleet is larger to match their actual numbers. The Space Wolves fleet is also an entity that changes far faster than any other Space Marine force, for their tactics create a higher attrition rate. Due to this, the Space Wolves have a far more pragmatic and almost cavalier attitude towards their longships of the stars. They will take the spoils of void war and refit and alter anything captured, absorbing them into their force. Thus a battle may well end in the wolves losing ships, but ending larger than they began the encounter. The baseline numbers are ever-changing, but it is estimated that, and please do forgive me if I chortle, the following ships of the line are included in their fleet. 2 Remilly's-class star forts, which are no laughing matter at all. Do not think of these as static positions, as I can assure you they are very movable indeed. It just takes time and effort. The wolves have circa 8 battle barges, over 30 strike cruisers, and up to possibly 180 support escorts, as it is stated that they have 20 squadrons of Hunter-class destroyers, Gladius and Nova-class frigates as well, each squadron being between 2 and 6 ships in the usual way. This gives them a staggering void fleet. Each of the escorts are armed to the teeth for ships of their size, and can have a squad of marines there to defend strategic points and to direct the vessel. The strike cruisers being so astonishingly abundant is due to the way that they are designated. A strike cruiser in most chapter fleets is of a standard pattern or design, but the Space Wolves will take any substantial ship and then slap firepower and shielding, boarding pods and landing craft on it to bring the ship up to the ability approximating the standard strike cruiser. Hence, they forage the void battlefield and resurrect the ships taken in battle and repurpose them in the name of the Allfather. Now, the standard chapter serf of most Astartes is a valiant and stoic example of the human race. But, as you can probably guess, the Voidsmen of the Space Wolves are just that little bit different. They are often warriors taken from Fenris as well, mostly, so have the same drives, honor, culture and aggression as their Space Marine officers. To board a Space Wolf ship is often accompanied by a cheer from the defenders as they unleash their fury and battle song on the foe. There truly are none as close to the mentality of the Orcs than the sons of the Ras, and they gather the saga of a ship as much as any Astartes of their own, or their squad's litany of achievements. Even the baseline humans who pilot and defend these ships ache for glory, and to smash the foes of the Allfather and his realm. You just have got to love the Space Wolves. But this, again, is not the only difference from the norm. The Space Wolves are one of the swiftest fleets in the galaxy. I shall have to look into the White Scars to be certain, but few can match the Wolves when they are on the prowl. Why, you may ask? And it is simple. Their rune priests can assist the navigators to slip through the warp at a much greater clip. They can outpace nearly all Imperial fleets and arrive on the enemy's heels to much surprise from any trying to escape them. And this is not all. The Space Marines are universally known for their wish to get in close to any void enemy. Again, this is simple, for the battle barge and strike cruisers may well be armed to the teeth, but their true strength is in their cargo. They are, when all is said and done, little more than delivery systems for the most powerful weapons in the galaxy, the Space Marines. Yet the Wolves are so insistent on this that they can endure huge firepower coming in, never even opening their gun ports until the very last second, as they go to near point-blank range and then unload their full devastating broadsides into the enemy. As the foe then floats by, burning and battered from the barrage, the boarding pods fly out and crash into them. The Wolves then do what they do best, rampaging across the decks of the enemy vessel, where the combat is close and personal, their blades biting into countless foes until their surrender is given. Thus the fleet can have a much higher turnover in ships, as previously noted. But they do not just hand reclaimed vessels to the Navis Imperialis, the Imperial Navy. They absorb them into their own formations, tasking the Iron Priests to bring them up to fighting condition. So a battle can take many guns from the Wolves, but said weaponry is then removed from the wrecks and deposited on the captured ships. Hilarious, in my humble opinion. Yet there is more. The Wolves fight from the heart as much as the head, and sometimes that heart can take over. Fleets of Space Wolf ships have a nasty habit of ignoring Mandeville points and crashing into a system far closer to any celestial body than is either safe or indeed, most consider, sane. Sometimes the impetuous Wolves may lose some ships, but the eye-popping and pants-filling effects of them dropping out of the warp at knife-fighting range from an enemy fleet more than makes up for the occasional misadventure. Hence one cannot escape a Wolf's fleet via the warp, nor can one dust them from long range, for the only option for anyone targeted by them is to either grab their ankles and kiss their posterior goodbye, or prepare for a boarding action that most often ends in servitors cleaning corridors of discarded limbs and noggins for the next 6 months. The battle barges and largest strike cruisers constitute 15 ships, 12 being the flags of the individual great companies, yet the wolves always keep 3 in reserve to replace any lost. They will not tolerate any delay in bringing wrath to the enemies of the All-Father, so are fully prepared for the occasional backstep in such a way. They are brash, incredibly violent, and appear like hot-headed whirlwinds, yet they are still Space Marines. Pride in their fleet is ever as ingrained into them as the importance given by their cultural progenitors. And what is a Viking without his longship? With their bespoke and unique Storm Wolf and Stormfang gunships, eclectic ship patterns and distinct doctrine, the Space Wolves fleet is arguably the most dangerous and effective under the banners of the Imperium. I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant. Like and subscribe, tip if I've earned your bounty, and do check out the video description for other entertainment opportunities and codes to make savings on games. And if you are Space Wolf and play Space Marine 2, then go join that Discord. Give it a go. But most importantly of all, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.